Hey guys, so sorry for the late heads up on that. Um, my meeting kind of ran long and then I hadn't eaten all day. And this, before anyone asked, yes, I dislocated my shoulder today doing jumping jacks.
What?
My shoulders are crap, apparently. So, yay. Um, so yeah, I'm just a little gimpy today. So I'd like to start us off with just a daily quiz. So predict, don't calculate. You might know how to calculate already, but just make a quick prediction on how much voltage is each resistor going to get. So just make a prediction. How much, we have a 20 ohm, a 10 ohm, and a 9-volt battery. How much do you think each one is going to get? Okay, if anyone wants to raise a hand, we can, if someone wants to volunteer an answer. No.
Maybe like 6 and 3.
Okay.
5 and 4?
6 volts and 3 volts. All right. Do we have any other guesses?
No, I think that's a good answer.
Okay. So for people who it seems like you guys agree, why do we think it's 6 and 3?
Because 10 is a half of 20 and 3 is a half of 6. And they have to have 9 in total.
So you're saying the one with more voltage is going to take, or the one with more resistance is going to get more voltage.
Yes.
Or wait, if you do like 30 ohms total, then that's like a third. So then you would take a third of like the 9 volts or something.
Which should be 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just chose between like 5 and 4 and 6 and 3. So yeah.
All right. So do we want to like actually check it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way that you officially check these is we're going to do a VIR and sometimes P chart. The P is for power. That's normally like not a big one, but it is there. So to do this, first thing is you want to make sure you set it up nicely. It's kind of a pain otherwise. So you set up the voltage, the current, the resistance, maybe the power if you're feeling into that. And so I always start with the total, and then I have my resistor A and my resistor B. So how much resistance does resistor A have?
20.
20. Right. Can we see the green? It's kind of light.
Yeah.
Inside's black. All right, and then B has 10. And so what's my total resistance of the whole circuit?
30.
30. They're in series, so you can just add them. All right, what's the total voltage for the whole circuit?
9.
All right, and then once you have this, now you can use V equals IR. V equals IR only works if you have 2 out of 3. You cannot mix and match. So make sure you have one whole line, then you can use V equals IR. So we have 9V is equal to I times 30 ohms, which gives us a current of,
See, this is what I mean.
Anyone? Right, 0.3.
It's like 3.3. 3.33 repeating.
Are you
Okay,
sure?
no.
Or did you do 30 divided by 9 or 9 divided by 30?
30 divided by 9.
So remember,
Oh.
we'll make this over. So I'm right? It's 0.3?
Yeah, 0.3.
Okay, cool. Just checking. All right, so that means it's 0.3 amps. How many, or what's the current for A?
0.3 amps.
0.3 amps. How do we know that?
Because it's a series, so current is the same.
And that's how we use these rules to help us do the math. All right, what about B? How many amps?
The same 0.3 amps.
Same thing.
Yep, same thing. They're all in series, so they all have the same current. And now that we have 2 out of the 3, we can do V equals IR again. So our I is just 0.3, our resistance here is 10, which is going to give us a voltage of 3. And our other one is still 0.3 amps, but our resistance is 20, which is going to get us what we predicted, 6 volts and 3 volts.
Wow.
So, and what you guys said was absolutely right, that this has twice the resistance. If we have the same current, and we do because it's a series, it's going to get twice the voltage. And so this is a really quick way, if it's a multiple choice, or if you just need to like check your answer, like, am I going crazy? Like, I want you guys to be able to predict this. Yes, you technically need to know how to do the math, but if you know how to predict it, you can tell, did you make a math mistake? Are you on the right track? And it gives you an idea of a place to aim for. Let's move on as far as how are the SDLs going? I've gotten some of SDL 1. I haven't had a chance to read them. I've graded all of the wave labs and left responses on all the questions. So if you're like, I don't know if I did the wave lab right, I did write feedback. I think you should be able to see it. Yes.
Can you teach us how to use the breadboard for like more complex ones like from
Yeah.
SDL2?
And that's actually what I was going to go over right now.
Okay.
So for SDL, which one do you want to do?
SDL2.
Oh, so SDL2 is 3.
For like any, or like in general, like complex.
Okay. So I'm going to do the setup for a couple of them. Let me find it and I'll draw them on the board. And then we'll do some more VIR charts for more complex things. But that's pretty much the basics of it. Okay, so SDL2 looks like
So, how you guys heard the news?
which news are you talking about?
The May stuff.
Yep, I heard about that right when my meeting happened.
So you think we'll be like still at home until then, or do you think things could change, or is it like set in stone
Before May 1st or after May 1st?
before May 1st?
Theoretically, is anything possible? Absolutely. Based on what's going on in New York, things are probably still going to get worse before we get better. We're right. If you look at the graph of it, of like the cases. Like this is China. They've kind of already peaked out. They're worried about a secondary epidemic. Italy was behind them, but Italy is right about here, almost surpassing them. And New York is right about here, so they're starting to get up to Italy level. I think California is a couple days behind them. And so whether or not we can flatten this curve out really determines our next steps. Yeah, I can only guess. I really know as much as you guys know. But yeah, so most likely we'll be out at least until May 1st. I think the school's already trying to figure out, like, what are we going to do if they extend it past May 1st? What do seniors do? What would graduation look like? So it's going to be a heck of a weird year, guys. Yeah, like it's certainly going to be weird. It already is. It's probably
It's just sad.
I need to buy a webcam. I hate these. I'm using my phone. You know how nice is it?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Lana. It is definitely.
Well, I mean, if we don't have graduation, like, can we just do it like next year?
Like delay the ceremony or delay your actual graduation?
No. Like, they give us the diploma, but like
the ceremony.
then we do like a ceremony next year.
I could definitely see them attempting that. Obviously, all the schools trying to do it at the same time will probably make it difficult because all the events that were canceled are like, we can finally do events again. But I definitely foresee them attempting to do that. I have seen like some colleges for like their like winter graduation doing online commencements, which sucks. But yeah, we'll see what kind of solutions we end up coming up with.
I have another question.
Yes.
How am I supposed to turn in my community service?
Great question. Nobody knows. We have no idea yet.
Literally.
I've been thinking about the whole week. How am I gonna turn in my freaking?
I mean, how are you gonna do it, or how are you gonna turn it in?
How am I gonna turn them in? Like, am I supposed to go to school when it's closed, or like?
No, I highly recommend against that. If anything, I would take pictures. Like, you can use Google Docs to scan it, and then like email it to like admin or secretaries and be like, this is my community service hours that I need to turn in. Like, how can I send them?
That's the thing, though.
Because we are all.
They were supposed to sign it at school, my community service hours.
Well, then send it to the person who's going to sign it and then have them forward it on, because you can essentially use their internet signature, or basically they're still giving their word that you did it.
See, this is what happens when you procrastinate.
Or Eduardo,
What?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, okay, so on Monday I try to turn in my my video notes. Like I tried to turn them in on Monday, but like it didn't want to load my picture for like a whole hour.
Yeah.
Do I just like redo it?
Yeah, I found I think Ashley was doing this where you upload it into a document and then submit
Oh.
to someone else.
Upload it into the Google Drive, and then it lets you. And then like, I don't know how to explain.
I tried that too, and it wasn't like loading.
Yeah, I have a feeling what's going on here is the Google servers the classroom servers were not meant to take the amount of classrooms that are on them right now.
It's like everybody on them now.
Yeah, so everyone's using it when they weren't. So I'm definitely going to be extremely, like, there's not going to be like a late penalty for that. Don't worry about it. Just, try again, possibly at hours where you think students aren't doing stuff.
Morning, Navi.
Oh my God, Navi, go to bed earlier. But, and then I do think that some doing it on the document helps. It's not a perfect solution. But again, like, it's fine. Take your time. I'm not like gonna be penalizing anyone for this. I get it. It's weird. It's hard, and we'll all get there. That's the goal. So yeah, it's a lot less punitive now, and it's more like, well, how do we make this work? Because it's gonna be weird. All right. As far as Alex's original question of these, how to set them up. So for number 2, it's still a series, but now you're going to have 3 things in series. So to do 3 things in series, I'm going to get my tiny resistor here. And then feel free to send me pictures on Remind of like, especially if you take a nice, good picture, because I can draw on the picture and send it back to you and be like, this is what you need to fix. Preferably try to troubleshoot on your own, because if everyone sends me things, I won't be able to do it. Or talk to people who've already done it and like show them a picture. Because once you do it, it's not hard. It's just confusing the first time. Okay, so this was set up for number 1, where we have it connects to the battery, and then it connects to the other side of the battery, and then they connect to each other right here. And so if I want to add a third one here, all I'm going to do is make space in the middle. And they don't have to be on the same row. That's not really important. The important thing is that I now put a new one, my third one, as a connector piece. And so that one's going to go into the same row. So this is on row 20. So it's going to go into the same row there. So anything that's in these middle ones, that's horizontal, these 5 are all the same, and these 5 are all the same. They're connected. This blue line is connected, this red line is connected, this blue line is connected, this red line is connected. And so your goal is just to make a complete circuit. And so I put them close together to show, but you can space these out in any way you like. Like, I don't have to keep them up here. I could move one, you know, go crazy, put it all the way down here. It's just whatever fits best for your particular circuit.
Mr. Court,
Yes.
I connected mine like diagonally, like going, let's say, like from the bottom and then kind of just going straight up.
Mm-hmm.
But like obviously all connected, like in the same row.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fine?
Yeah. So as long as, so remember, series, one hand holds the battery, one hand holds the next one, this one holds hands with the next one, and this one holds hands with the battery. So they're each holding one hand with one part, either with a battery or with 2 different resistors. And so your electrons, your negative side of your battery will connect here, and so your electrons will flow through this metal, through here, down into this, across into the other resistor, down into there, across to the other resistor, and then to the positive side of the battery.
How do we make a parallel circuit?
All right, great question. So this is series, so just to like have this is how you could connect them for number 2. For number 3 in parallel, so series is you hold one hand for each thing, parallel is you hold 2 hands. So the easiest way to do this with no additional wires is they're all holding the battery. So it means to be in parallel, one side holds the battery, the other side holds the battery. For the other one to also do the same thing, you're literally going to set them up so that they look parallel. I'll show you in a second. They're kind of hard to shove in, especially with one bum arm.
We're doing STL3, right?
Yes, this is number 3. And so you literally can set them up parallel. That would be the easiest way to do them in parallel, is do both of them connect to one side of the battery and both of them connect to the other side of the battery. So this would be how you could set up number 3.
Wait, so when we set up number 3, even though it's like, you know how it's like, so that, do we call that a parallel circuit or like a series? Like
This is
number
parallel.
3? Even though
Because,
like the picture they drew?
so yeah, so the picture, there's like, I'm not going to say 100, probably not 100, but there's a lot of different ways you could draw this circuit. So, left hand, okay. So this circuit could be drawn a ton of ways. You could have drawn it like that. You could have drawn it like that. The way the circuit is drawn has very little to do with the way you actually put it together, which can kind of be confusing. The important part is that it still is parallel. And so the idea that is your electrons go on the negative end and they have a choice. It's an or, right? It's a parallel. So they could go to this one or it could hop to this one. And then once there, it can still make it back to the positive side of the battery just the way it wanted. And so that's the main thing for parallel, is that they have a way to get from one end to the other. So you have two complete circuits. So this is one complete circuit, and then I have another complete circuit. Yeah, Eduardo?
Wait, did I miss anything?
I don't know, Navi.
I came like 5 minutes ago. Or just like 6 minutes ago.
You didn't really miss anything.
You missed
Besides the VIRP thing.
Yeah, which I'll go over again in more depth.
I have another question. So as far as finding like resistors, you know how the other day, I think it was yesterday when we found resistors of like a parallel circuit, we did like 1 over the resistance.
Yes.
To find the total resistance of number 3, would we do that and then add them up? So then it would be like we found the resistor of like, it's like that it's a resistor in a resistor, kind of? Because when we found the resistors, isn't it in parallel?
Yeah,
right?
So for example, these, I'll get to whatever your raised hand is in a second, Eduardo. So this is in 1,000 and a 1.5. So for mine, so that's 1.5 kiloohms and 1 kiloohms. So I would still add them as fractions. And however you want to do that is up to you. I would probably...
Oh, so just add them as fractions and convert it later?
Yeah. And so that would give us, what, 5 over 3 kiloohms, so 3/5 kiloohms, right? Yeah. And so you can see that 3/5 is less than 1, and it's definitely less than 1.5. And so the idea is whenever you do a parallel resistor, your total resistance is less, which is why I'm having you do it in the kiloohms. Because if you were, say, using a couple hundred, if they're in series, that's not a big deal. But if you do 300s in parallel, your resistance is going to be like 33%. So it's going to be about 33, which is extremely low, and you'll burn out your battery and your resistors will get very hot. So that's why I gave you resistors with such high numbers. It's to prevent burnout for your battery. Because when you're doing the series ones, not a big deal, they add up. When you're doing parallel resistors, your total resistance decreases, your current amps up, and you just start draining the power from your battery extremely quickly. So this is how you'd set them up in parallel. For number 4, it's just 3 in parallel. So you would just add another one to your line. If it's for any reason not working or you're not getting any voltage out of any of them, you can always check. It's often that you just accidentally put them into the wrong hole. It's very tiny. It's very easy to miss where they go. All right, Eduardo, are you raising your hand for a reason? Or
Yes.
Yes. All right, what's up?
Okay, what if I like mix them up and I don't know which one is which?
You're gonna need to figure out which one is which. You have to know. So they have color-coded bands. You can either send me a reminder, or I think it's honestly easier if you just look up. If you type in the color code, there's a lot of websites where if you just type in the color code.
Well, wait, how many different we're supposed to have? How many different resistors?
You're supposed to have 3 that are different and then 1 that's identical to one of them.
I got 2 of them.
So you only have 2 resistors?
Yeah, 2 different ones. I have 4, but like 2 different ones.
Okay.
So you're supposed to have a pair and then 2 different ones, is what she's saying.
Yeah. So 3 different types of resistors total. So you only have 2. You could either like swap a resistor with someone who lives near you and just like drop it off outside the house. People have been coming to my house and just picking things up outside my doorstep. If you do that, contact me. I'm not going to post my address because this is going to post to YouTube later, so I'm not going to say my address online. So if you do need that, contact me another way and I will let you know.
All right.
All right, Alex, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Wait, Mr. Court. So, like, this isn't about, like, the third STO. I finished the first one and the second one, but then my numbers don't, like, look right to me. And, like, especially about the current, don't you remember, like, how the current's supposed to be the same for all of them? So, would I just, like, because I already have the resistance what's given, then would I just, like, how would I find out the other values? Because I remember, like, during the video, you said put 5 and 4, 5 for the larger resistor and, like, 4 for the smaller one, but then that would make the current different.
No, it won't.
It won't?
Did you actually measure your voltage?
No, but if for the predict one.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways you could do that. You could always predict your current for the total circuit and then go back and predict your current for the rest of the circuit. Theoretically, what should be happening is that no matter what your numbers for voltage are, is that your current ends up being the same when you divide it by a different number, because your resistors are different. So your voltage is different, your resistance is different, but your current should still be the same. So it's like if the voltage of A over the resistance of A should be equal to the voltage of B over the resistance of B, because V equals IR, so that means I equals V over R. And so theoretically, if they're in series, your currents, you're right, should all be the same. And so that's why I say predict. I'm not like judging you. When you do your final values where you actually measure them, if you calculate your voltage divided by your resistance and get a decimal answer, they should be extremely close. If they are all over the place when you actually measure it, that tells me you're measuring something wrong or your resistors are labeled incorrectly. So
just like predict or like make up a value for the current and then try to get the voltage instead, or
no, I would
since the current's
definitely.
supposed to be this.
So yeah, so predict for series. The important part is predicting the voltage, because we're like, oh, the current's going to be the same. For parallel, the important part is predicting the current, because the voltage should be
the same.
So whichever one you decide to do predictions first. Main thing is I really don't want you calculating it, because otherwise you start relying on your calculation instead of your own personal intuition of, oh, this is how it works. You guys are
so you just want us to like try to understand how it works rather than trying to like make the math work. Yeah.
The math, I have by and large found that you guys are excellent at the math. Like every year the math has gone fine, because it's literally 3 things. It's like F equals MA. Like there's not a whole lot of math there to actually do. The hard part is intuitively understanding how it works. So I want to work on our intuition before we work on our math. Also, this isn't even on the AP test, but it is important, I think, in general. So we are going to go over it. We're probably going to try to wrap this up this week so we can focus on review. I did post in the classroom about the AP reviews that they are posting, and so far they look pretty good. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I do know the person who is presenting it. So
the 5 steps to a 5.
Yeah, he's the guy who writes 5 steps to a 5. He's the one I've been emailing during this whole process. And he's the one that I'm probably going to be setting up a physics fight with. Hopefully we're going to try for next week. But he wants to get his AP review videos scored away this week, and then next week he'll start working on possible physics fights. Yeah, any questions about that or the physics fights? And then I'll go over V equals IR.
Wait, isn't he like on the East Coast?
Yeah.
Oh, is it gonna be all them like rich white kids just like from like private school?
Yeah, but yeah, it is actually a fancy private school. But they're also 9th graders, so just like be bigger and more intimidating than them. Let me put it this way: you're all way cooler than them, so like at least we have that beat.
Okay, that works.
Yeah. So yeah, because and And I've already talked to him because I know mostly some of you girls are like, oh no, I'm not good enough. And it's like, it's not about good enough. It's more like we're all bored. There's not a lot we can do together with physics anymore. So we might as well do something that's more interesting. And so a physics fight, Kat, is just going to be, I'm going to present you guys with a problem. So we have done these in class. They've just been less formal. So that's where I present you with this problem. Like, here's a situation. Is this true? And you got to come up with an argument. So basically it's like your paragraph arguments, except we're going to try to do more inventive things. We're probably going to use some of the videos from Pivot Interactives, because those are dynamic situations. You can actually take data off of them. And so I think one of the first ones we're going to do is a Pivot Interactives that is momentum conserved? So you're going to look at the process, try to take data, and you want to prove in 2 minutes. You have time to prep it, but you have 2 minutes to say your spiel of this is why it is not conserved or this is against. So Navi, we're gonna maybe compete against other classes. It's gonna be less of a competition and more like a friendly. If this goes on for longer, we may actually try to organize tournaments, which should be fun. But right now it's just a friendly. Yeah, just
like a way to review.
fun for some of us.
It's never a friendly.
It's never, I know, friendlies are never as friendly as they should be, but the physics community and the science community at large, not that, let's see, none of you guys went to the Science Bowl, but in general, unless they're just terrible people to start with, most of the science friendlies actually are pretty friendly, because mostly, you're all just nerds, and we're all just working through this together. So everyone I've interacted with in the science and the physics teacher community especially has always been extremely helpful and nice.
Is that an ice bag?
Yes. Oh, you missed that. I dislocated my shoulder. So.
How?
Jumping jacks.
What were you doing jumping jacks though?
Did you not stretch?
I did stretch.
Wait, how does that work? How do you dislocate it with?
Not. If you're normal, you don't.
You probably did it too fast.
No, I was tired. They were slow.
Oh.
So basically, it's just as my shoulder weakens as I get older, and the tendons have already been, ultimately, we talked to my doctor, they're pretty much destroyed. As these get weaker over time, it becomes extremely easy. I've dislocated my shoulder sneezing before. I've dislocated it getting out of bed, writing on the board, not during one of your classes. I think last year I dislocated it while I was writing on the board at school. Relatively small one, so I just had to rotate it back in. This one took a little longer to get back in. I had to pop it back in. Not to get too nitty-gritty with the details here. But yeah, basically I probably genetically just have weaker joints, and then the fact that I keep doing sports despite that has not been beneficial for them.
What should say collagen or gelatin?
I did for a while, I did for a couple years, and pretty much saw 0 to no effects. It's more like I have to self-monitor. So the more in shape I am, the more I can push it because the muscles are built up. I am currently out of shape because I haven't been able to go to judo for a month. So they're currently weaker. So yeah, so I was doing an at-home workout, and that's how that happened. So I will still be doing at-home workouts, but just not with the left shoulder. Anyway, any other questions?
One-handed push-ups.
About school? Yeah, we'll work at it, but I'm
so that means that you cannot grade our work, which means we don't have to do it no more, right?
I only need a hand to use a mouse. I'm not really sure how that works, but
we wouldn't like you to dislocate the other shoulder though.
Sounds like a threat.
Wait, Eduardo, why is it COVID-20 now?
Because I have evolved.
He's going to change it every day. Tomorrow or the next time it's going to be 21.
Well, if we're doing this still next year, then it will be 21. But
Bro.
I mean, you guys are not ready. You guys only see COVID-19 right now, but in 2 months we're going to have COVID-20.
Anyway, are there any questions that are actually have to do with this, or I'll go over VIRP charts?
You can go.
I think we're good.
IRP.
Hey, Navi.
So I'm gonna pick a circuit from your guys' packet, just so it's one we can practice with. So I'm gonna do this circuit first. So this is on multiple pages. So I'm gonna do this circuit first. Feel free to follow along anywhere, or if you want.
What page is that?
Already.
It's 4, 5, 4, 6, 4, 7. Basically, there's only so many good circuit drawings, so I just reuse them. So mostly, I'm going to be doing pages 6, because it's just these two, which is really about the complexity I would expect to see on any given test or for any entry-level physics course.
Which one would you say is the hardest one?
With just the more complex they get. I wouldn't say they're necessarily harder. It's just the more parts of it there are, the harder it is to solve.
Oh, it's just like more like time consuming, pretty much.
Pretty much. I really like these. I especially like the ones where they don't give you the circuit. They just give you certain pieces of it and you have to figure out the circuit because it's more of a puzzle solving thing. But we're going to do just the standard ones first. So I'm going to draw this one on the board.
My packet is too far. Yes, Eti.
Mm-hmm.
Are you like falling asleep?
Yes.
I want Starbucks.
I'm gonna number these or letter these just for simplicity's sake.
Is Starbucks even open?
I doubt it.
Depends on the hours. A lot of food places are, but with very reduced hours, just because they can't afford to stay open.
It's like, why? Who thought about creating the coronavirus?
I don't think anyone thought about it.
I think it was Nabi.
All right, so first you want to just set up a chart, which is with all of your resistors and the total, and then voltage, current, resistance, and power. Power tends to be more of an optional one, but it's not hard, it's just an extra step. So don't worry about power to start with. It's not always when you find out last, but always try to fill out your total first. But what's our total voltage for this whole thing?
12.
12.
Wow. Whoa.
All right. And so the next thing we have to do is find our total resistance for the whole thing. All right. How do we find total resistance? What do we do first?
You add them, add the fractions.
Add the series.
The parallel ones.
What do we do first? The series or the parallel?
Parallel first, and then you add the parallel answer to the series.
So we're going to do our parallels first. That's A, B, and C.
Is that 4?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, it ends up being 4, yeah. This whole thing is 4 ohms plus 2 ohms gives us 6 ohms total. So we added these in parallel, so we did fractions, then we flipped our fraction. That simplifies to just 4, and this is 2.0, so just 2, and 4 plus 2 gives us 6. All right, we now have 2 out of the 3 of our V equals IR, so what's our current? 6 times what equals 12?
2.
2. So 2 amps. So that's our starting point. We can go back and now fill in our resistors. So this is a 20 ohm resistor, this is a 10 ohm resistor, a 10 ohm, and a 2 ohm. And so now we want to find what is the thing that could What connects directly to the battery? Do we have something in series or in parallel that connects directly to the battery? Sorry. So do we have something that is in series or in parallel to the battery?
Series? I have no idea.
Yeah, this 2 is in direct series to the battery. So if an electron leaves here, it has to go through this 2 ohm. So that tells us something, because if it's in series, it has the same
Current.
Mr. Coy.
Yes.
So would the AP test ever like, or not the AP test, but later on, like, would it be about like conventional current, or would they talk about like the actual like flow of the current?
It'll be conventional current, how the positive charge moves.
Bruh. But that's so confusing. Why don't they just do the negative?
They just want to leave it as conventional.
Yeah, so basically you can think of it as the positive charge moves the positive way and the negative charge moves the opposite or the negative way.
So at what time will we use like the conventional? What time will we use like the actual?
You will always use the conventional.
No, but like in like later on.
You're gonna always use the conventional.
Okay.
Because it doesn't, remember, order, direction is arbitrary. We just pick a side and call it positive. So the direction is not important. Whether or not you flip your battery around, most things, for as far as simple circuits go, you're just going to calculate it the same. Yeah, you're just always going to use conventional. All right, and so, sorry to bring that last point home, is this 2 amps and this 2 amps are going to be the same because this is in series with the battery. And then, oh look, we got 2 and the third one left. So if this is my current and this is my resistance, what's my voltage?
4.
All right. So now we have a slightly harder problem because now we have a split. But we do know something about this. Well, there's a couple ways we could do this. We could say this entire thing is 4 ohms. All right, regardless of the other resistance, the entire thing is 4 ohms. But I don't like that way. I find that to be less intuitive. What I always do is I think, well, my electron hits here. Then my electron has a choice, but it has to go one of 3 ways. It either hits D and then A, or it hits D and B, or it hits D and C. And this is following what we call as Kirchhoff's loop rule. So the idea that regardless, I have a loop that has D and A in it, or I have a loop that has D and B in it, or I have a loop that has D and C in it. And I know that they all start with 12 volts. How many volts can it have when it goes home?
0.
0. So, and I know D is how many volts?
4.
4. So how many volts does A have to take so that we end up using all 12?
8. So all of them are 8.
And since they're in parallel, and this is the reason why parallels all use the same voltage, because they're either going to hit D or C, D or B, or D or A, but either way, D all takes the same voltage, which means A, B, and C get what's ever left over. It should be the same.
So you said page 6?
Yes. And then from here, for each one of these, we have 2 out of the 3, so we can just do division. And so I'm going to do it in decimals just to show, well, no, I'm going to just simplify it.
So who came up with this idea?
The universe? I don't know.
Beginners.
Yeah, we'll see like that. And so my current is going to be the voltage over the resistance. And so this one I just simplified. I left these as 10 because I want to check if this works. So I want to check this was the loop rule. The junction rule is that my current total going in has to equal the sum of all of my little currents. So that means the current from A and the current from B and the current from C should all add up to the total. The idea that all those electrons we started with went somewhere and they came back.
Why didn't you just go to 5? Like over 5?
Just so that I knew I was going to add the fractions later, so I just didn't. I made it easier on myself.
Oh, okay.
You could though. It's fine.
Mr. Coy,
Yes.
so you know how you said, wait, because I thought they were all in series with D. So wouldn't they all have the same I? Or is it just the like B, D? Which one is it?
None of them actually have, and so that's the difference by them being in series and them being only in series. So yes, D and A are in series, D and B are in series, D and C are in series, but these are not in series. So your electron has a choice. So as it goes through here, it can go, let me use a different color. Your electron could go up into C, it could go through B, or it could go down into C. So your electron is only one electron. It has to pick. It can't be in 3 places at once. The next one will choose differently, and the next one will probably choose differently. If you were an electron, would you go down B or A more often, do you think?
B, probably A. I don't know.
So do we want to go on a path with the most resistance or the least
Oh,
resistance?
okay, yeah.
So you're going to go with either B or C. So you're going to probably have about twice as many electrons in B or C, which actually we can see that. The current in B and C is the same because they're the same resistor, and it's twice as big as the current in A. Because A is twice as hard to get through, so less things go that way. And so we can kind of see that in how your numbers, and that's why I left them over 10, so it was easier to compare them. And so if I actually add these up again, we get 16. 16 plus 4 gives us 20 over 10, which is just 2
Wait,
amps,
Mr. Coy?
which is what we started with. Yes.
Wow.
Technically, wouldn't the electron want to go through B rather than C because it's a more direct path?
No. So actually, length of the wire matters a little bit. We assume that for copper wires, our resistance is 0. So for electrons, the distance is really not a big deal. The actual path, not. Otherwise, some parts of your house would get better power than other parts of your house. And again, if that's happening, you should call an electrician because it's extreme fire danger. Like something's wrong. But that's not what happens, is because the resistance in copper wire is so low that the fact that it's, 10 extra meters of wire is really not a big deal. And so if you were using a type of wire where it actually had a high resistance, length of wire would increase the resistance, and yes, less electrons would go down that way. If you have a wire whose resistance is 0, the length of the wire has absolutely no bearing on which direction they go. Good point to bring up. And
Why is Josette in San Francisco?
I don't know. She wants to be.
Hey, I'm in SF too.
Doing what?
I'm at my aunt's house.
Is it empty over there?
No, my family's here.
No, like in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, the traffic's quite light. It's the physics class. Okay, I gotta go.
And so basically this proves that the junction rule, and it works. So if you ever go back and you add your currents and it doesn't add up to the total, either you added wrong or you spelled it wrong in the first place. So that would be your hint to you double check something. But the idea is that even though I have some current this way, some current this way, some current this way, the total amount of current hasn't changed because the total amount of electrons hasn't changed. There's only so many electrons you have.
How do we get power?
Oh, and so power is just the really simple calculation of current times voltage. And so I would just do current times voltage. So 24/10, 64/10, 64/10, and
What's up with Giuseppe's backgrounds?
She's in China.
Wait, hour. Okay.
oh my, no one stopped me when I did 8 times 4 is 24. It's not.
Sorry.
I was like, that doesn't add up. And so you can also check, this is another place where you can double check your math. Your total power, it has to add up to 24. So we have 6.4 plus 6.4, so 13. Yes? Yeah. No. 12.
Yeah. What?
12.8. So close to 13. 12.8 plus 13.2 gives us 16
Plus 8.
plus 8 gives
24.
us 24. So
What's the units for it again?
Oh,
Watts or
right,
joules?
watts, yeah.
I forgot.
So it's watts or joules per second. 1 watt is 1 joule per 1 second. So that's kind of just like the quick on dirty and how that works. And so based on this, which light bulb is going to be the brightest? If these were light bulbs.
D.
Yeah. So brightness and power are the same thing. So the brighter your light bulb, the more power it takes. And that's why certain light bulbs will say this is an 80 watt light bulb or an 100 watt or a 60 or like a 120 for your bigger lights. And so that's what the wattage is. It's how much power does it take? How bright is it going to be? The higher the power, the higher the brightness. Obviously, power usage changes when you switch from incandescent to LED, but again, more power does mean brighter either way. LEDs are just going to use less power per brightness because they don't waste any of that power on heat or much.
What's incandescent?
Incandescent are your standard ones that get warm when you touch them or get warm when they're used. So most older Christmas lights are incandescent. Newer Christmas lights are LED. The Christmas lights I gave you were incandescent because we got these free from Walmart one year and we've been using them ever since.
Do you want to burn and stuff?
So, all right, we all right with this one? Do we want to try another one?
We're good.
No, you just want to be done?
I mean, we can,
Try another one.
Wait, Mr. Coy,
Yeah.
I have a question for SDL3. Would it be a parallel circuit or a series?
SDL3 is a parallel, yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So when you set it up, make sure you set them up in parallel. So SDL3 is parallel, 1 and 2 are series, 3 and 4 are parallel, and then 5 is when we start mixing it up and doing both.
Okay.
So,
Wait, so just making sure about SDLs 1 and 2. So we just kind of guess like what we think it would be.
make an educated guess. It's okay if your original guesses are less educated than your later guesses. That's the point.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, I'm not going to be judging your guesses. I'm going to be judging your guesses if they're strangely accurate, like down to a percentage or like a point, because that tells me you didn't guess, you calculated. So just calculate, use whole numbers or fractions, and that's fine. And then when you test it, check how close were your predictions. All right.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
You know how you told me to write in my answers on the doc and then just submit the doc? for the SDLs. So for SDL2, I believe it doesn't have like the medium resistor row. So I just kind of put it underneath. Is that fine? You know?
Did you add one or?
I added it, but like I can't add it into like where it is. So I put it underneath the total.
That's fine. I'll go try to go and edit the document really quick.
Yeah.
Because that's just a mistake on my end.
Yeah, because I thought I was doing the wrong one, but it just didn't have the
No,
row.
that was just me copying and pasting, trying to save time.
We saw a glimpse of the hubby.
The famous husband.
Yes. He came in through the sliding glass door because he didn't want to walk in front.
Wow.
And so when I suddenly had food, that's because he handed me food.
Okay.
Oh, there's still food, so I'm gonna grab more. Anyway, so I'm gonna put up the second one on number 6, and just do the same thing. So feel free, try to beat me. So I'm gonna do like a nice setup. See how fast you can go. And obviously, if you get stuck, feel free to pause and listen. But like, see if you can do it before I can show you how to do it.
Wait, the second one?
Yep.
Mr. Coy,
Yes.
are we gonna be able to see the Zoom from yesterday?
I think I put it on Google or on YouTube. So check. I have a playlist called COVID Classroom AP Physics.
COVID
Oh,
classroom.
okay.
I'm just putting every video that I like record and save. So I'm trying to record and save them, and it should be recording right now. Obviously, quality is going to be spotty, but that should be up from yesterday, or not from yesterday, but from Monday.
Thank you.
I'm doing recordings for you guys Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and for regular Tuesday, Thursday. So that gives me 2 to 3 hours of office hours for every class. Oh, right, drawing this.
Oh, that's a cute chihuahua. I didn't notice. Why is just sitting in school? How do you do that? Setting.
All right, and so what's the first step besides making your chart?
Total voltage and your ohms?
Yeah, your total voltage, your total resistance. And so I'm gonna do the 8 to just so 8 to 10, 5. You could do them in any order, it does not matter. And so fill in your total voltage, because that one's easy. It's just 40 volts. Please stop me when I make mistakes. All right, so our next step is do what?
The shoot. Find the total?
Total resistance. So I'm going to do these in series. So I'm going to do 8 ohms plus 2 ohms.
And then parallel.
And then my 10 ohms are in parallel to each other, which makes them really easy to add, which is great. Which gives us 5 ohms plus my last resistor, which is a 5 ohm resistor.
10 ohms.
Yep.
Wait, what? Which ones are parallel?
This set and this one. So this set together was 10 ohms.
Mm-hmm.
And then this whole thing is in parallel to this thing, so that's 10 ohms,
Oh.
10 ohms.
Oh, okay.
And then we flip that, which gives us 5 ohms in total. For this whole thing is 5 ohms, plus my last 5 ohms will give me 10 total.
How are they doing that? Like the little chihuahua?
That's
Oh,
right.
you just gotta put more, and then you gotta put virtual background.
What?
All right, so I see we're playing around with the settings. Focus, focus. Okay, what would be our current here?
4.
Volt?
I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of pissed at the fire because that shit was so hot.
So next up, so this is normally the part where it's the trickiest to figure out, because this, okay, we found total resistance, we found current, we got that. But then these tend to be a bit more difficult.
If it's in series, then it's the same current.
Yeah, you always want to find your like weakest link. So whichever one connects directly, or I guess strongest link, whichever one connects directly to the battery. So if there's something that's directly in parallel to the battery, or if there's something that's directly in series. And so that gives us a jumping off point. So now from here, I can go back and figure out my voltage. So this is going to be 20 volts, which is kind of crazy. This one little resistor takes half of the entire voltage of everything, just because it has so much more current. All right. But now, so this one's good. We're good here. But now, again, our electron has a choice. So what's going to happen to my current?
It can go through either one.
You can go through either one. So my current is not going to be 4. What do we think? If we had to guess, what would we say the current through each one is?
5, 10, 10. Wait, no, hold up.
It has to add up to 4. If we had to guess.
Would it just be 2 and 2?
All right, so we have 2 and 2 as a guess. We have another guess?
Wait, no. Wouldn't it like prefer to go to the 8 and the 2?
All right, well, we'll see.
But
wouldn't the 2 resistor have more voltage than the 5 resistor?
Not necessarily, because how much voltage you get depends on the current. And so that's why as they get more complex, your answer, you got to think about a lot more things. So if it's in series, since it has so much more current, it often gets the voltage. So what we want to think is if I use 20.
Oh, wouldn't the 10 resistor, 8 resistor, and 2 resistor get the same?
Okay.
Would it go to the 8 and 2?
So let's not worry too much about the current right now, because we're at a predicting stage, and so we can think, well, maybe it'll go either or. But what we do know is how many volts are left.
20.
20. So if my resistor goes this direction and then goes back home, it hits the 5, then it hits the 10, and it goes back home. How many?
Oh, so it has to be 20. So the volts have to be 20 for all of them. And then, because they're in parallel though. Oh, it's a series circuit at the top.
Yep. So this one has to be 20, because if it hits the 5 and it hits the 10, it's got to go back and be 0, but it started with 40. So this one took 20 volts.
So the 2 would be 4 volts.
And then the 8 would be 16.
Yep. And so the way we would say this is we started with 40 volts, and then we lost the volts from the 5 ohm resistor, and then we lost the volts from the 10 ohm resistor, and we should end up with 0. And so that's basically the formal version of Kirchhoff's loop rule. The idea that if this one lost a certain amount and this one lost a certain amount, the total amount I lost is all of it. We lost all of our energy.
The whose rule?
Kirchhoff.
Kirchhoff's.
So 2 ohms resistor would have 4 volts, and then the 8 would have 16, right?
That sounds right, but let's test it. So, I mean, because anytime you get 2, go for the third one. So we have V.
Mr. Court,
Yes.
how then if the total is supposed to be 40, then how does the 8 and the 2 have any voltage?
All right, and
Those
so
are in series.
what I mean by total
Mm.
is each loop total has to be 40.
Mm.
And so I'm going to try to draw it in. This is much easier when I draw it on your board when we're in school, but so I'm going to draw, there's 2 loops in this because there's one set of parallels.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one loop where it hits the 5 and it hits the 10. And then my other loop where it hits the 5 and then it hits the 28 instead. And so each loop uses 40. The whole circuit uses more than 40, and that's why it takes way more power. But each loop gets 40 volts. And so this one is just going to get 20, and that holds true for both loops. So I know there's 20 left over to finish out this loop, and there's 20 left over to finish out that loop. So since it's the only resistor, and there's 20 left over, it gets 20. And from here, we can now do V equals IR again. So we have 20 equals I times 10, which means what times 10 is 20?
2.
All right, and so we now have, and so this is what I mean. You got to flip between the same current, same voltage, same current, same voltage. And so that's why this whole set gets 20 and this whole set gets 20 because
So all of them will be 2.
They're all 20.
So how did I get 2 amps for the other loop?
Because it's a series.
Kind of. That's why this is the same. But remember, we had 4 amps go into this. 2 went this way, which means how many go up?
2.
And so generally that's how this works, is you use 1 to help you find the voltage, which finds you the current, which finds you the current somewhere else, which will get you the voltage from somewhere else. So you kind of snake your way up these, or down them, or whichever direction you start on. And so from here, now we can just do V equals IR again. So I times R equals V gets us 4 volts and 16 volts. So Navi, good prediction. All right.
Yeah,
how did he predict 16 and 4?
Because the volts were supposed to add up to 20, and then I multiplied it by like the ratio.
Yep. There's actually like a voltage divider rule for series that you can do, which is just a ratio, which basically is this one is 4 times the resistance, which means your voltage is going to be 4 times the other one's voltage.
Oh.
Total still has to be 20 because we only had 20 volts left, but it's going to be 4 times more than the other one. And then as far as solving these, it's really just a practice, practice, practice kind of thing. I'm going to be uploading something that's called commonly tested or frequently tested but difficult problem types. And I'll probably do a couple, but it actually has all this is shamelessly stolen from the book 5 Steps to a 5, but it has all the answers, and really this is just great practice for common things they test on, but are often can be challenging. So inclines are on there, free body diagrams, and graphs, and circuits. So
wait, can we do another one?
Yeah, I can make one up.
I was thinking about the 4th one on the packet, on page 5.
The 4th one?
Navi, they're not gonna get any harder. Well, they are, but like not on the test.
This one?
Yeah, because the one above it, I got 14.66, but then I was confused about it, and then I tried doing the second one, and then my calculator wouldn't work.
Main thing, I don't know if I want to do that one because the numbers are just going to be super ugly. We can, but it's going to be lots of decimals.
Yeah, because the first one or the second one, like the one above it,
Mhm.
that one had decimals as well, and I didn't know if that was right. So I was thinking, like, what if this one has decimals as well?
I think I'm going to actually do the other one you said, and we'll do that one together because I think that one actually comes out pretty neatly. Like a little bit of decimals, but not too bad. All right, so I'm doing this one. We'll draw it on the board though. This can be found on page 4. I'm doing this top one. So there's no way you will ever get one that complex, but let's practice it.
Thank you, Navi.
Thanks, Navi.
Again,
You're welcome.
has to be here. It's purely optional.
Wait, so if we think we don't need it, we can go, right?
I'm not gonna stop you. If you
She's not gonna whip you, I'll tell you that.
Love y'all. Bye.
Bye. Have fun with your family.
Which one are we doing?
Sati, what are you eating?
Mr. Coy,
Yes.
after the video, can you put the battery connector outside so I can go get it?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Why are you on your way?
No, I just said after the video.
Got it. Remind me at the very end because I may forget. That would sound like me. All right, let's number these. Oh, there's no voltage listed here. I'll make up a voltage that sounds good later. So first things first, though, you still want to figure out your total resistance. That's the most important one.
Voltage 420.
Nope, I'm going to pick a number that works.
19.
I have no idea which number will work until we get equivalent resistance. Okay.
You said we would never have a problem like this complex on the test?
No.
Well, we don't have circuits to begin with.
What?
We don't have circuits on the test to begin with, so.
No, we won't. But like in a normal time period, it would never be this bad because the idea is that if you can do it, you can do a simple one. This is mostly just time waste. Will you have to probably do these if you go advanced in physics? Probably. But
how would this tie into electromagnetism or something?
How would this tie into electromagnetism? Well, you have to understand how a circuit works, and then you go into, well, how does a moving current cause a magnetic field and vice versa? So you have to have a moving current or a moving electron to cause a magnetic field. A moving magnetic field can cause an electron to move. You having fun there, just a second? Okay. So
I thought that was an actual person behind her.
So for our total resistance, this is going to be a pain in the butt. So I'm going to do this one first. So that's a parallel. So I'm going to add it as a fraction. If my math looks off, please stop me.
We should play a Kahoot.
If you want to set it up, you are more than welcome to.
What if I make a Kahoot for the like the class? Will you like?
Sure. If you set it up, I don't mind running it. I just don't want to set it up.
Oh.
But he would know all the answers and then he would win though.
What if I make a cafe about the flashcards?
Sure.
And then next time we have the meeting, we play it.
Sure. If you want to do that, like, again, you are welcome to. I will not stop you from helping me do my job.
But like, that sure doesn't sound too sure.
I just don't know if you're actually going to do it. But, like, if you want to, I will absolutely use your materials.
Joto. Navi call me Joto. Navi.
So,
You meant to say it's hot today, right?
all right. So, for each one of these parallels, I got 6.
Yeah.
This is in series, so this would be a 9, 3 plus 6, and this would be a 12. 6 plus 6. And then I have to go back and do another parallel with this new 9 and this new 12. And this is where it gets ugly. Dang it.
Oh, I messed up.
Why?
So I got 9 for the when you add the parallel to the series at the top.
Mm-hmm.
But then I wrote the 9 in a way where, like, when I came back to the problem, because I guess I took a break or something, and I came back and I saw the 9 and the 6 together, and I added it, and then I put it as 15.
Mr. Coy, are we going over anything else after this, or is this just kind of like the last thing? Oh, sorry.
Is that pan, señorita? What are you eating?
Oh no, it's not senorita bread. It's
That looks like it.
It's not.
I know. I say it looks like it. I didn't say it was.
Yeah, Catalina, this is probably pretty much the last thing we're gonna go over. I will take any additional questions at the end if there's anything you guys want to ask about, but this is pretty much it for the day.
Okay, cool.
As far as like what to keep doing is just keep working on the SDLs.
Mm-hmm.
There's really nothing better to give you an idea of how the circuit works.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any problems testing, feel free to message me, and I've been pretty good, I think, about responding within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Thank you, Mr. Coy. I'll see you Friday. Is that when our next class is?
Yeah, it will be Friday.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so we're stuck here with a really nasty fraction, 36 over 7. And so this whole thing, 36 over 7 plus 5 plus 3. This is just really ugly. 30. So it's 13th and 1/7 is your total resistance. Just honestly an ugly number. I'm going to turn it into just a fraction. But someone who has a calculator was 13 times 7.
Right here. I have one. 13 over 7?
No, 13 times 7.
91.
All right, so it's 92 over 7.
Never mind, my calculator doesn't work. Oh, she already gave the answer.
We already got the answer.
I know. Okay, now it's mine.
No way.
I feel like Navi wants to fight.
Okay, so I made it 92 volts just so I could get a nice even number for the current. That's completely arbitrary. I just made it up. And so that gives us a current of 7 amps. So the first thing I would do is go figure out, is there anything that has the same voltage or the same current as our battery?
Oh, 3.
So the 3 is going to have a 7 amps, and
92.
no, it's not going to be 92, because 3 times 7 is probably not 92.
Oh, 21.
All right, is there anything else that has a voltage or a current that's the same as the battery? Look for something that's alone all by itself.
Oh, there is another 3.
You mean a
The 5.
Oh, there's a 5.
All right, and then that gives us 35.
Yes. See, Miss Yoko could have been a math teacher.
No. Okay, I'm gonna erase all this to make room. Okay, so this is what we can have got easily. And so I'm gonna draw some loops. So how many loops can I make here?
2. Wait.
4.
Yeah, there are 4 possible loops to be made here. Good news, all of them include the 3 and the 5. So we got 7 for current. So this is definitely more complicated than I would ever ask you to do. But here's an easier way to do this. Is our issue here is we have no idea how the current splits. We know that if this side is 12 and this side is 9, which one's going to have more current? The side that has a resistance of 9 or the side that has a resistance of 12?
9.
9. So we know that one's going to have more current. So this 3 will have more current than that 6, but we're not really sure about the split. So what you can do is you can use your equivalent resistances to help you. I can pretend that it's just a 9 and a 12 ohm resistor and just, make believe that everything's okay. And so I know that I have 7 amps coming into this, and I can calculate how much voltage I have left. Because if I do it this way, I really only have 2 loops. I have this loop, the lower loop, and the upper loop. The upper loop is 9 amps, or 9 ohms. The lower loop is 12 ohms. And so I know we're probably going to have more going this way, but we're not entirely sure how much. But I can say that these are going to be in parallel, so whatever voltage is left over, that's what we get. So I'm going to do my 92 volts minus my 21 volts minus my 35 volts. And again, anyone with a calculator.
What was it again?
92, my total, minus my other one, 21.
That's 36.
Yeah.
Get it on top of my head.
Do we concur 36?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means each one of these sides gets 36 volts. Yes, it gets split up later, but it does start with 36 volts. So from that, we can find the current split. So if this is going to be a voltage of 36, we don't know our current, but we know our ohms are 12. And same with this one, this is going to be a voltage of 36. We don't know our current, but our ohms are 9. So either our current is going to be 36 divided by 9, or 4 amps, And this is going to be 36 divided by 12, or 3 amps.
3.
So this whole lower loop, or at least the one that gets all of the lower loop, this one has 3 amps. So I'm going to go and find that. What was my 6? And then my other one that gets all of it, this one, 3, gets 4 amps. And then you can actually go and find the entire voltage there. And so you want to keep looking at different chunks of it. So basically you are altering your system to fit your needs.
That's crazy.
Again, I would never actually put this on a test. This is way too much. If you can do this though, you're good. And then from here, you go back and you do your voltages. So 4 times 3 gives us 12 volts. 3 times 6 gives us...
Oh, you wanted to say 18?
Right? Yeah, okay. And so we said before that we had 36 left over, right? Yes, yes? Yeah.
Yes. Continue.
Okay. So we have that 92 volts minus 5 minus 21.
Minus 18, minus 12.
18 gives us what? And so this is for my lower loop. For my upper loop, we still lose the 21 and the 35. This one we lose the 12 on the upper loop. So what's my missing number for
25?
Yeah, it is.
24.
Oh, I was pretty close.
What about for this one?
Oh, that was 18.
Which, let's look back at it and check, does this make sense? So this whole thing was 9. But remember, these are in series. So this one was a 6, this one was a 3. So this one should be twice as much voltage as the other one, which it is. So good. This one was 6, this one was also 6, so they should take equal voltage. And since these are in parallel, they will get the
Same current.
same voltage.
Voltage, yeah.
Parallel gets the same voltage. So my 10 and 15 are my 18s. And then my 12 and my 24s are 8s. And then you can go back and solve for your last currents using V equals IR. And so basically your goal is to do V equals IR if you have 2 out of 3, or use the idea that if they're in parallel, they have the same voltage, or if they're in series by themselves, they have the same current, and then you just use that to solve each little piece of it.
What if I get a fraction?
For your currents?
For the I? Look,
Yeah.
because there's 18 and 5, that is not an even
Yeah,
number.
no, a lot of these are going to be ugly. It's fine. These are going to be nice. Like that's 1.
That's 1, and then the other one is 3.
That's 3, so great. This one is going to be 1.8 and
18 over 15.
which is going to be 2.2.
You just did that on top of your head?
Oh no, wait, sorry, 1.2, excuse me. Because I know it's going to add up to 3. So you can also use that rule to help you be like, well, if I know 1, if this was 3 amps going through here, it still has to add up to 3 amps coming out.
You're right. You're right.
So yeah, I always liked these because if I did it fast enough, I had plenty of time to double check my answers or triple check or quadruple check because there's so many different ways you could check that it all works. The final one we could use to check if it all works is check if we find all the powers, does it add up to the total power? Which is going to be some ugly math, but it's V times I, so 92 times 7. So it's
Wait, Mr. Coy,
power. Yes.
can't you just add up all the I's and divide it by the amount of I's you have?
To do what?
Like, for example, like 4 plus 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 7 plus 7, and then just divide it by the amount of squares you have.
To get the total current?
Like, just to like check.
That would give you the average.
It'll give you an average, but that's not going to give you the total current of the battery.
So that wouldn't work.
No.
You
Just
tried.
because these are all, they get added differently whether they're in series or parallel. So you can't add things that are different and add them and expect it to work out. It's like if you were trying to calculate how many zucchini you have by adding apples and oranges together. It's like they're all in the produce section, but they don't really have a whole lot to do with each other. So you have to use the rules of either the loop rule or the junction rule, that the current flips and comes back together, or that you're going to use all the volts in one loop to help you solve. So you have to use those rules to do your fact checks.
Wait, Mr. Coy, you said that if they're in parallel, they have the same what?
Voltage.
Same voltage.
So the 10 and the 15 get the same voltage. The 8 and the 24 get the same voltage. This whole upper section gets the same voltage as this whole lower section. How they divvy it up is a little different.
So
Each section that's in parallel will get the same total voltage. They just might spread it out differently.
Oh, okay.
and which one gets more current?
The one with less resistance.
Oh.
So since the upper path has smaller resistors overall, it's the path of least resistance, it's going to have a higher current. And that's why it has 4 amps of current instead of 3 amps of current, which the lower loop gets. All right. We doing good? Any final questions before we end the day?
Hold up. This deserves.
Okay. So I'm going to call it, I'll be posting some additional information, but really just keep working with the SDLs and or problem sets. I think on your problem set, there is like a very simple one of these. So I would go ahead and take a look at it today. So you can ask me any questions on it Friday if you need help. But make sure you really try it first because, again, I just can't be that helpful from across the screen. So I hope you guys have a good day. I will see you guys at Friday.
Wait, don't forget Mr. Coy.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I will not forget.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands, you filthy animals. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank